The Victoria Cross is the highest award of the British Honour System. It is awarded for gallantry in the presence of enemy to members of the British Armed Forces and used to include the Commonwealth countries as well. VCs are rarely awarded, and since 1857 there have only been 1,355 recipients. There was only one Victoria Cross recipient in the Australian Flying Corps in World War I, and that man was Francis Hubert McNamara, VC, CB, CBE. Frank was born in 1894 and went to Shepparton High School. He qualified as a teacher in 1914, but was mobilised into the militia that same year. At Point Cook Flying School, he soloed in a Bristol box kite in 1915. In March 1916, Frank departed Melbourne for Egypt on the ship Orsova. He was seconded to the Royal Flying Corps and undertook further training in England before returning to Egypt and rejoining #1 Squadron Australian Flying Corps. On the 20th of March 1917, McNamara, flying a Martinsyde, was one of 4 #1 Squadron pilots taking part in a raid against a Turkish railway junction near Gaza. Owing to a shortage of bombs, the aircraft were each armed with 6 specially modified 4.5-inch howitzer shells. McNamara had successfully dropped 3 of his shells when the 4th exploded prematurely, badly wounding him in the leg with shrapnel, an effect he likened to being hit with a sledgehammer. Having turned to head back to base, he spotted a fellow squadron member from the same mission, Captain Douglas Rutherford, on the ground beside his crash-landed BE-2. Allied airmen had been hacked to death by enemy troops in similar situations, and McNamara saw that a company of Turkish cavalry was fast approaching Rutherford's position. Despite the rough terrain and the gash in his leg, McNamara landed near Rutherford in an attempt to rescue him. As there was no spare cockpit in the single-seat Martinsyde, the downed pilot jumped onto McNamara's wing and held the struts. McNamara crashed while attempting to take off because the effects of his leg wound and Rutherford's weight overbalancing the aircraft. The 2 men, who had escaped further injury in the accident, set fire to the Martinsyde and dashed back to Rutherford's BE-2. Rutherford repaired the engine while McNamara used his revolver against the attacking cavalry, who had opened fire on them. 2 other #1 Squadron pilots overhead, Lieutenant, later Air Marshal Sir Roy Peter Drummond, and Lieutenant Alfred Ellis, also began strafing the enemy troops. McNamara managed to start the BE-2's engine and take off, with Rutherford in the observer's cockpit. In severe pain and close to blacking out from loss of blood, McNamara flew the damaged aircraft at 70 miles or 110 kilometres back to base at El Arish, having effected what was described in the Australian official history of the war as a brilliant escape in the very nick of time and under hot fire. McNamara could only emit exhausted expletives before he lost consciousness shortly after landing. Evacuated to hospital, he almost died following an allergic reaction to a routine tetanus injection. McNamara had to be given artificial respiration and stimulants to keep him alive, but recovered quickly. A contemporary news report declared that he was soon sitting up, eating chicken and drinking champagne. Post-war, Frank served both in Australia and England in many capacities and rose to the rank of Air Vice Marshal, dying in England in 1961.